Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to be a meta update that includes a little bit of a synopsis of what's going on, what we're seeing, and why. And then we're going to be talking about the top 3 heroes in every role with a brief description of what makes them top tier. Let's go ahead and get started. So before we jump into the top 3 heroes of each role, I think this is really important to note that this patch is incredibly lopsided in regards to items. You know, we've talked about this in previous videos. You probably see it in all your games. We're still seeing Mage Slayer pretty much every single game. Now, I know there's other items that are strong, Disperser and the such, but Mage Slayer specifically is heavily defining this meta. So what I'm talking about is that since Mage Slayer is an item that accelerates your farm, but also makes the enemy do no damage, we've kind of come into a really snowball-y meta, potentially. What that means is that if one team pulls ahead, they have a guy with a Mage Slayer who's just unkillable, then the game kind of just ends, it feels like. So we're going to be talking about that dynamic of the meta, how the heroes that are getting picked play into this, and how we build and play each one of these heroes in this current meta. So let's go ahead and get started. So since we already did a tier list for the carry heroes, feel free to check that out. It's from about 2 weeks ago. We're going to start off with the carry role. So first and foremost, we've got Faceless Void coming in at number 1, Slark coming in at number 2, and Troll coming in at number 3. So generally speaking for carries right now, the best farming item in terms of balance is Maelstrom. What's really nice about all 3 of these heroes is they either do mixed damage with the Maelstrom on Void and Troll, or they don't mind if you have a bunch of armor in the case of Slark, because the most popular item right now is Shiva's. And the reason why Slark doesn't mind if you have a bunch of armor is because he's just going to hit you a bunch of times and get a bunch of essence shift from you. So being a little bit tankier isn't that big of a problem in terms of being a Slark. Also, Slark, out of all the carries in the game, absolutely loves Mage Slayer as a replacement for his Echo Saber. So he not only utilizes that, he also utilizes Diffusal really well, which turns into Disperser, giving him a way to remove silences and other things that people cast on you once you've already used your Dark Pact. So the big thing about Faceless Void right now is his reliable scaling. He can play off map, team fighting potential, mobility, the Maelstrom buildup. I really just like going straight Mjolnir. I'm not a huge fan of the Mask of Madness myself. You still can go it if you want. And for Troll specifically, people are still going Battle Fury sometimes, and what I've noticed for myself, because I've been playing a lot of Troll with a lot of success, is that on paper, Maelstrom feels better with the Shard, but Battle Fury is better if your lane is kind of like a trade sustain lane, and in the early game, you just need that mana and health in order to spam axes and stay in lane, because I did have one lane where I was trading a lot. I tried to go Maelstrom, and in hindsight, I really wish I had a Perseverance. So oddly enough, Maelstrom is if you plan to lane less, and you maybe got a sustain neutral, and Battle Fury is if you plan to lane a bit longer and you're playing a sustain lane, and it allows you to like ramp up farm in the early game better. So it's kind of weird to think, but Battle Fury is more of securing up the build up in the laning phase, while Maelstrom's more about hitting that hard timing in the mid game. Going into mid, what's really important to note about the 3 mids I have here, Ember Spirit, Meepo, and DK, is that they all snowball really freaking hard. So in the case of Meepo, he's usually going Diffusal Dragonlance into Ags. The Mega Meepo makes it so it's like impossible to focus this guy. And the other 2 heroes, Ember Spirit and DK, rush Mage Slayer. So they're both super survivable, and then they buy a Mage Slayer. So they make it so you can't even bring them down. DK has the healthy mix of high armor plus magic resistance, and then no spells do damage to him. And he's ranged with his ulti, which also does damage over time. So suddenly your hits are doing 45 damage over time, which really is a lot when you get it that early. And then also Ember Spirit has the natural survivability and the Sleight of Fist ability to apply Mage Slayer to everybody that goes on him. So what I've added to this tier list in terms of the mid lane, because all 3 heroes here are super snowbally, DK builds into Mage Slayer, Blink, Manta Ags, Octarine. That's the pretty standard build for him. Embers are usually going like Mage Slayer, Gleipnir, Shivas in some particular order. And Meepos, we already talked about that. These heroes need to be shut down. So what have we added? We've added counters to help you deal with these heroes if you're seeing them picked and you haven't picked your mid hero yet, because it's really important against these heroes that we just slow down their momentum. And yes, they're still powerful in the meta, but they feel way more lackluster if they're slowed down significantly. So the heroes we have to counter, specifically DK and Ember, are hard countered by Viper and Huskar, and they're also both countered by OD. And in case of Meepo, I really like Timbersaw and Viper in terms of shutting down his laning phase. So these are heroes that I have on my radar for you guys to pick as a response to them. And if you have these heroes in your arsenal, you'll have a much better time not having to spam meta heroes all the time if you don't want to, but also being able to pick on the guys that are spamming these meta heroes and also may not be the best at them and know how to play these counter matchups. Going into the offlane, first and foremost, the hero that's picked first and banned first every single one of my games is Doom. So what they gave Doom was the ability that you cannot deny Doom anymore. And you also can't heal when you're Doom. That's been there around for a while now, but the fact that Dooms are going phase Veil with no Midas generally means if they Scorched Earth Doom you, you're just dead and you can't get denied anymore. So Doom's just hitting this like Blink Shiva's BKB, Octarine, and this hero's just, somebody's gonna die. Like, you can't do anything, and in the past, the only way you could scale past this as a carry would you preemptively pop BKB, and you'd have Satanic or support on your team that heals you up. But now you just tick down to Doom, the damage goes through BKB, you can use your BKB after. In pro games, the only response people are doing that I'm noticing that kind of works is to get doomed and then BKB TP. That's about the best option I've seen so far, and half the time they die in base anyway because you can't heal in the fountain. So Doom, if you learn to use his laning stage properly, going for that phase Veil, this hero is an absolute fucking menace, okay? Next up is Wyvern. She's the offlane version of rushing a Mage Slayer. Universal hero that loves going like double Bracer or like Bracer Wraithband and then just straight into Mage Slayer with the tread, like treads into Mage Slayer. So she keeps her distance by using her Q to slow you and fly over terrain. It's incredibly difficult to approach her. She has her ultimate to dissuade you if you manage to get close to her. And if not, her Q plus Mage Slayer literally just murders you. So a lot of people are going like Mage Slayer, Witchblade, Hurricane Pike, sometimes Ags. A lot of it's just about the fact that this hero keeps its distance and is able to apply Mage Slayer to a bunch of different heroes similar to Ember Spirit. And last but not least, in the offlane role is Enigma. So the other offlane item other than Shiva's and Mage Slayer we're seeing a lot of is also Vlad's. So shout out to heroes like Tide and Mars that we're seeing a lot of Vlad's rushes on as well. But Enigma as an offlaner is generally going for Vlad's, maybe something like Drums as one more aura item, and then just like the Blink BKB teamfight Enigma. So he turns into this flash farming, tower taking, summons offlaner that eventually gives you crazy teamfight. And the Eidolons get tankier as you get tankier, so he scales better with those. His one ability that used to be useless over time is no longer useless. And overall, it just feels like if this hero is paired with Tiny or Marcy specifically, but most ideally like a melee 4, but those two are the best, just feels like an unbeatable lane. You have to have like specific carry support combos that can kill the Eidolons, and if you manage to duplicate them level 1, the lane's literally over right then and there. So if you want to learn Enigma, now's the time. As a carry player, I can attest that this hero is incredibly obnoxious, and I would rather just never play against it, especially if you specialize in Enigma. Hero that it feels like if you can just whip him out of your pocket in a meta where he's broken, he will pay dividends in your ranking immensely. Going into the 4 position, we have a bunch of heroes that burst you. So Lion, specifically, is number 1. He sucks you and then fingers you. And not in the way that you would expect in a Dota YouTube video. But what's most annoying about Lion is that he also provides sustain to his team. And if he's sucking you, he's also killing you. So, like, he can use mana drain on his own teammates, similar to Pugna, but it only gives them mana. And then, so he's like sustained somehow. And then he's also this pick off, like unsplit pushable against hero and against a lot of these heroes that are rushing BKBs and they rely on mobility like Ember Spirit. And you're seeing the carries like Slark and Void. It's just super hard to play against Lion. And his laning stage has been buffed a bunch of times. Base attack speed, damage on his impale, yada, yada, yada. When we're seeing Hoodwink, she has options for other builds, but she loves just going Mage Slayer Gleipnir as a support because Acorn Shot applies these spells. So another hero with a right-click based ability that applies Mage Slayer really fits well in the meta. She farms really well as a support. Incredible utility, incredible burst. Really strong laner, especially with offlaners that give minus armor like Tide with Gush. Fit her really well. And then last but not least, I love Tiny as the melee 4 right now. Even though Mage Slayer is kind of annoying for him, what makes him specifically good as a spellcaster is that he's usually killing you before you can hit him once because he's just blink avalanching you, right? Blink avalanche toss. What makes Tiny really strong right now is that there are a lot of these heroes that are sitting in the back with Mage Slayers trying to keep their distance, the Vipers, the Wyverns, etc. And you can just displace them and throw them into the middle of your team. Displacement is really powerful in a meta like this. So another hero that's been rising in popularity in Pro Dota right now that I didn't put on here because he's not as powerful in pubs is example Batrider for the exact same reason. So I've been loving Tiny myself, been winning a lot in the 4 position with him. You should definitely check him out as a low cooldown skirmisher. Just be wary that if your teammates pick heroes that don't have playmaking potential, this hero can feel a bit awkward. Coming in the 5 position, we've got 4 heroes here. And the reason why we have Lion there again is because, yes, Lion can be a blink initiator like he's always been, but he can also be a backline, shard, ether lens, triple wraithband, ghost scepter kind of guy, where he literally is just making it really hard for him to be killed because he can mana drain anybody and get magic immunity. And he can also be the sustain guy in the back. So he just has Tranquil's ether and he's mana draining his teammates, mana draining you. And you have to kill him, but he's just sitting in the back. So he's not a save, but he's sustained plus counter initiation stuns. So the fact that Lion has 2 ways to play the game now, rather than just always having the one-dimensional pick-off type hero, allows him to be a 5, and that's generally the role that he will play in the team. And so since you have this backline role, and if your team doesn't decide to pick any heroes with stuns or playmaking potential, you can always go back for the 4 position style of Lion and be able to adjust to like your teammates maybe not picking the most ideal lineups. So talking about the other 3 heroes, Vengeful Spirit right now, she is being played a bit offlane as well, but just generally speaking, the laning abilities are super strong with any hero that right clicks, the minus armor, the stun, and the swap save against like the heavy burst potential of the meta right now is just so important. It makes it so hard to go on anybody on her team when her team is winning. It just feels impossible to burst anybody. And she just has all the utilities. She can go ag, she can go auras, she can go like utility items like Glimmer and Force Staff, whatever it takes to make your team snowball further by running at them or by kiting them with your swap. Bane, I've been seeing a surprising amount in my games. He's also winning a lot. He's got a 55% win rate in my bracket. Feels really powerful in lane. Universal hero, trading with right clicks. He's backline similar to Lion, but he's also like a pseudo Venge where instead of a swap, he has his Nightmare as a save, and he's got that long disable in the Fiend's Grip. So he's got elements that the other popular 5s have, and he's also really strong in lane. And as you can see with the carries right now, yeah, some people are cheese picking illusion heroes, but we're having to deal with a lot of single target, annoying, slippery guys. The Morphlings are even that we didn't mention on here. And Bane's good against all those. And in the wrap our tier list up, we got Nature's Prophet, as always, for the same reasons. Still an absolute menace in pubs. Nothing's changed about this hero in the last 3 patches. Can buy any item that his team needs and can win 3 lanes at the same time. So that's my video for meta update for 7.35B. I hope you guys enjoyed the top 3 heroes of every role. Get spamming, now's the time, and get that MMR while it's hot. See you guys next time for another meta update. Peace.